Good morning, everybody. It is not Brian Haldane. Still mornings with Brian Haldane. In for the great Brian Haldane, I am Cade Is, and I am glad to have you on board to start this Monday, August 11th. If you're listening on the radio, probably should mute that. But if you're watching on Facebook, if you're watching on YouTube, we appreciate that as well. Our Facebook feed and our YouTube broadcast and our YouTube channel all brought to you courtesy of Lake Urgent Care, so we appreciate that. You may be listening on the app. That experience also presented by Lake Urgent Care, and we appreciate the comments, the feedback from our Facebook page, or if you want to subscribe on to YouTube, you can find us. It's Talk 1073 Baton Rouge, just to make sure you find us specifically. Coming up on today's show, pretty busy recapping what the Aints did last night in preseason game number 1, falling to the Chargers out in L.A. Ross Jackson of LouisianaSports.net will join us at around 8:35 this morning. Coming up in just a couple of minutes, with the school year starting, it also comes with a new sports calendar. And when we're talking high school sports, which has kind of been something that a lot of people are probably way more familiar with me on, we're going to be joined by the LHSAA Executive Director, Eddie Bonine, here at the bottom of the hour to talk about not only the upcoming calendar year of sports, but there are some discussions being held by state legislators on what the role of the LHSAA is, weighing in on the select versus non-select argument, weighing in on one-time transfer rules, and I'd like to get Eddie's opinion on that. We'll have our Medical Monday segment talking GLP-1 today, which is, I believe, like the Ozempic or the semaglutide versus triceptide shots, benefits, risk. We'll also be speaking with Acy Cooper Jr. He is the president of the Louisiana Shrimp Association. Today is the opening day of the inshore fall shrimp season, goes until sometime in December. It was pushed back from August 1st. Today is opening day. That interview, to be transparent, is recorded because he's out shrimping. Let's be real, shrimping ain't easy. And JP, you're from down the bay just like I am. Yeah. This is a big deal. This is a big deal to a lot of people. They rely on this for their income, for their livelihood. The people that support the shrimpers, whether it be the service stations to get them fueled up and get them, get all the food and equipment they need. So it's a big deal, and we will be talking shrimp season as well. So lots to get to today, but let's go ahead and jump right in to our top stories.
Number 5.
All right, number 5. 2 people were burned in an accident at the Really Hot Air Balloon Festival in Zachary Saturday afternoon. Festival organizers confirm the incident happened inside one of the food trucks. Both victims are said to be in serious condition, with one having to be taken away via AirMed.
Number 4.
3 men are being sought in Tangipahoa Parish by their sheriff's office after allegedly fleeing a crash in Hammond and leaving a gun and a gas station ice machine.
Number 3.
Yep.
My bad.
No, all good. I'll add to this. The vehicle they abandoned had been stolen from Independence about a year ago, contained drugs and additional firearms. The public is being asked to help identify and locate the suspects. To number 3, a 2-year-old boy is safe after being left in a hot car in Shreveport for up to 30 minutes on Friday. Someone saw the little boy in distress inside the car right outside a Dollar Tree and flagged down an officer just about 100 yards away. Police Corporal Christopher Bordelon says that the fact that it was well before noon didn't matter. It was still super hot already. The boy's mother was arrested as is facing a single count of child desertion.
Number 2.
On the sports front, LSU freshman running back JT Lindsey has been suspended from the football team after being arrested for accessory after the fact to second-degree murder. He is accused of allowing two suspects in a May homicide to stay in his dorm. Now, Lindsay's attorney says he is innocent and unaware the individuals were wanted by police. Per LSU policy, he will remain suspended until charges are resolved. For more information on the LSU Tigers, I direct you to louisianasports.net.
Number 1.
And the tough story over the weekend came to us yesterday morning. Sergeant Caleb Eisworth of the Baton Rouge Police Department passed away yesterday morning from his injuries sustained in June when a man allegedly drove a truck into his motorcycle. The suspect, who I will not name, won't give him that credit, was arrested the same day and initially charged with attempted first-degree murder. The charge now is being sought to be upgraded by our DA, Hiller Moore. Plans to move it from attempted first-degree murder to first-degree murder and potentially seek the death penalty. That's going to be pending a discussion with Eisworth's family. I'll read a statement from our police chief, BRPD chief TJ Morse. It is with profound sadness that I must share that our beloved Motors officer, Sergeant Caleb Eisworth, died moments ago, surrounded by loved ones. Caleb was an amazing officer and a good man. He spent 7 weeks fighting hard to overcome his injuries, but ultimately lost his battle today. I ask that our community continue to lift the Eisworth family and the men and women of our Baton Rouge Police Department up in prayer. And indeed, we share that sentiment, and we'll be discussing that, I'm sure, further today and when Brian returns tomorrow.
Well, U.S. Secretary of Education Linda McMahon is in town today to kick off her Returning Education to the States tour. Secretary McMahon will be joined by Louisiana State Superintendent of Education, Dr. Cade Brumley, at Jefferson Terrence Academy this morning at 9:30. The tour will make stops in all 50 states and is to hear from students, teachers, and school leaders about education models that are accelerating learning outcomes and are meeting the needs of families and local communities. So this is good, right?
Yeah,
I mean, this is
it's a start, and Louisiana is the first stop on that tour. Be interesting what her feedback is.
Yeah. Looking forward to that. I'm sure we'll cover more on that as in the next day or so. Well, tragic scene unfolding outside the CDC headquarters in Atlanta Friday afternoon, where a gunman opened fire, killing DeKalb County Police Officer David Rose. Authorities say the shooter, 30-year-old Patrick Joseph White, was armed with multiple weapons and blamed the COVID-19 vaccine for his mental health struggles. He attempted to enter the CDC before firing shots at a nearby pharmacy. Investigators are still determining whether White was killed by police or took his own life. Wow. I mean, this is insane. So I see we have, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., whose skepticism of vaccines has been the cornerstone of his career, voiced support for CDC employees Saturday. But some laid-off CDC employees said Kennedy shares responsibility for the violence and should resign. Wow.
Yeah.
So
heavy.
Very heavy indeed.
We got something light here before we get to the break.
We do. Heinz and Smoothie King have teamed up to launch a limited-time Heinz tomato ketchup smoothie.
Yeah, they do.
Blending the savory condiment with acai sherbet, apple juice, strawberries, and raspberries for a sweet and tangy twist. Inspired by the internet debate if tomatoes are a fruit, is ketchup a smoothie? The drink will be available at select Smoothie King locations across major U.S. cities.
I love Smoothie King, but I don't know if I can get down with this. And you can think, okay, well, there's tomato use in other beverages. Like you can drink tomato juice. It's mixed with beer. It's in a Bloody Mary. Yeah. As a smoothie with the ketchup connotation, I just don't know.
This is total depravity at its finest, man. I saw this the other day. It reminds me of that line in Jurassic Park where they were preoccupied with whether or not they could, that they didn't stop to think if they should. So
smoothies will find a way.
Oh, man, they will.
Yeah. All right, let's take a break. And when we get back, we'll recap a little bit of the Saints and Chargers from last night.
All right. Oh, man.
have those cuts?
Yeah. Yep. Let's see.
Keep me.
Okay, that's just
on
15,
time.
16, 17. Yep, got those. Let's see. Good morning, Facebook. What's everyone doing out there?
Nobody really on the chat quite yet. How much time we got? We got a break at 20, right?
Yeah.
So we'll have.
Yeah, this segment will probably be pretty short. Maybe
Okay.
about like
3-4
2 or
minutes.
3 minutes. Yeah, something like that.
.617 here on Monday morning. Cade Wazan for the great Brian Haldane. This is Mornings with Brian Haldane. The Saints continue their We Appreciate Drew Brees So Much tour with a preseason loss last night to the Chargers, 27-13. The loss is not what's really important. There's a couple of things I look for when it comes to preseason, and it's more situational things. Can you execute when you get a turnover inside the red zone and get 6 points instead of 3? Can you not turn over the ball? Are you playing efficient? How are you as far as, not hurting yourself with penalties in key areas and injuries? And that's the tough thing because we saw Trevor Penning carted off. We saw Will Clapp, former ESPN Baton Rouge intern, by the way, carted off. So those things are going to be tough to see what happens there. We'll talk to Ross at the 8 o'clock hour. But with that loss, there were some good performances. Rookie quarterback Tyler Shuck threw a nice touchdown pass in the game, and we have his thoughts from his head coach, Kellen Moore, in Cut 15.
Great 2-minute drive right before the half. I thought he did some really good things there. He felt under control. I thought he managed the situations really, really well. You throw a pick, you got to respond. And obviously no one wants to throw an interception. The way he responded was really, really good.
Shuck threw for 165 yards and a touchdown and did have that interception. Spencer Rattler got the start, threw 7 for 11 for 53 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and had a lost fumble. Rattler is not pleased with his performance.
A couple misreads, just not great execution, not how you want it. I thought I left some plays out there. As a group, thought we could have been better on third down, and then we got to finish in that red zone after the muffed punt. On 4th and 1. Had some good moments, some bright moments, but got to be more consistent throughout the game.
Definitely the highlight, as we mentioned a second ago, for the Saints was Shuck's 54-yard touchdown pass to Mason Tipton. Tipton is in his second year out of Yale, and more likes what he sees from the wideout.
Awesome play by him. Phenomenal play. I thought he played really well today as far as just, he played hard, he played aggressive. He's a really good player, and we're excited about his future with us.
Saints practice this week in Irvine, California. Return home Sunday to host Jacksonville. And Fox Business Report is now coming up. Does Brian continue the sports typically in the next segment, or he goes to a different topic? I might continue the LSU here, which is cuts 18, 19, 20. How much time we'll have before the break?
Oh, we have another 2 minutes or so.
And then he goes to 32.
Or 30-30, yeah.
Yeah, 30, 30. So it'll be about 6 minutes roughly.
Yeah.
I may do the LSU football, so I have it ready. I may do this just a little more on that police officer.
Yeah. But I do have the cuts if you need them. So just, I'll follow your lead. So no traffic? Okay. Oh, you took it out? Yeah. Oh. Here I was thinking like.
.623 here on the Monday morning. It is Mornings with Brian Haldane. I'm Cade Waza in for the great Brian Haldane. JP producing today. You go by JP, right?
Yeah, it's.
I think I forever called you John, and then realized Friday it's JP.
That's the way I've introduced myself in a professional setting, but as time goes on,
Okay.
it's just what everyone calls me. A little rebranding, huh?
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. Obviously the story of the day, and I don't want to speak out of turn, out of respect for the officer and his family. I know Brian will certainly cover this in depth, and didn't necessarily have the time to turn around to bring on someone. And I know Brian will this week, but we got the story from WBRZ yesterday, our news partner, and then I did see a tweet, and I wanted to pass this along on X from their account that Mayor President Sid Edwards has asked that all flags be flown at half staff in honor of Mr. Eisworth. It's interesting in the time that we live in, where I think, because what was discussed in the story was the individual who committed this crime had some animosity towards law enforcement, right? And that seems to have been a prevailing thought over the last, I don't know, 10 plus years, right? We can go back to 9, 10 years ago when one of the worst things to ever hit the city happened. And that was fueled by someone with a an animosity towards law enforcement. And you see it every day, whether it's law enforcement in the city. If you wear the uniform, state trooper, city, parish, we're seeing it out on the national level, certainly with the immigration enforcement, right? And I won't get into all that, but there are individuals who are out there to do their job to protect you and I. And I just don't get, I understand that there's going to be bad apples all over the place in every line of work, in every profession. I truly feel, and maybe this is just the optimist in me and the person that looks for the bright side, that the majority of those out there wearing the uniform are doing it for the right reason. I truly do. And I think words matter. Words matter. What you hear on a newscast, which they have to fill time, right? I'm the programmer of the station. I understand we've got to put something on the air. You can't just go dead for a couple hours until you get back to Mornings with Brian Haldane and Moon Griffon. Some people may disagree about 9 o'clock. I don't know. I love Moon, and we'll have him on later. But I think you have the 24-hour news sources, and it's across the board. I don't care if it's CNN, Fox, MSNBC. They've got to fill time, and it's opinion, right? You fill time with these opinion programs, and there's something pushed out about people's dislike for law enforcement, and it's constant. And look, some people have reasons, but I think you say that enough, I think those words matter, and people hear them, and sentiment grows. And I just, it's frustrating because now I'm reading a story today about someone who is a decorated officer. It doesn't necessarily, have to follow this path, but this guy, Sergeant Caleb Eisworth, was decorated, honored with the BRPD's Medal of Valor and multiple awards for heroism. Doesn't matter if it's a young officer, doesn't matter if it's somebody that's been on the force for years. Man, woman, black, white, it doesn't matter. They're out there to protect us. And when those who wish to push forth this narrative, defund the police, whatever the case may be, if something happens to them, God forbid, who are you going to call? Right? And I don't know this. I'm just from hearing reports from the incident that happened in New York a couple weeks ago, or a week or two ago, that stretch of New York, those buildings to downtown, are normally way more staffed. They're going through a situation of shortages, and I'm sure this goes to affect recruitment. And when you're looking to get people into that line of work, right? If you've been in this line of work, they wake up every morning not knowing if they're going to see their family at the end of the day. That's the responsibility. And I don't know. It bothers me. I think it takes a pretty strong person to dedicate their life to do that. And at the end of the day, just deepest condolences to the Eisworth family for what you've been through. I feel like I can say that the city is behind you, and will be there in support in whatever way possible. Just a tough day. So, no real easy way to transition out of that. I just had a couple of thoughts, and it's just it bothers me that we're just still in this narrative of pushing something. This person's a this person's a Nazi, this person's whatever. Those words matter. Words matter to people. You say it enough, and it sticks, and crap happens. It's ugly. So, just be mindful of how we speak, right? Thoughts and prayers, and more than that. I know that sounds cliche, but man, just a heavy morning. Kiss your loved ones, give them a hug. That kind of stuff matters. CBS News, local news coming up, and we'll hear from Eddie Bonine from the LHSA here in just a bit. This is Mornings with Brian Haldane with Cade Wazan on Talk 107.3.
Yeah, there's really no easy way to say it. You know, it's just it's tough. It is. It's heavy, man. Oh yeah. Looks like we got
Facebooks.
Facebook crew. Where's the usual crew at? Slow morning, maybe. Rough morning getting up. Yeah.
So we got CBS, local, break, traffic, weather, and then we'll go into that pre-recorded.
Okay, so that'd be coming up this segment.
Check
All right.
check the head of that to make sure it starts off sounding like it's going. I tried to do it where it sounds like I'm coming on a break.
Okay, let's see. Let me listen to it now.
Okay, but it has me like coming out of a segment. Okay.
All right, Galen, good morning. Let's see.
This doctor from OLOL earned his medical degree from Medical University of the Americas in St. Kitts. Beautiful place.
Hmm.
He completed his residency at Chabers, which is no longer Chabers. I think it's owned by.
I forget the name.
Oxford or something?
Yeah, I think so.
But interesting that he was.
That he was down
Chabert.
there. Yeah,
Yeah.
Chabert. It's not something you really hear too often up here.
I don't think I ever got treated at Chabert, but I passed by it many times going to Buddy's house on the east side. Had some buddies that lived like right, because like you'd either have to take the big bridge, we called it, to go over the intercoastal,
Yeah.
and if that bridge was out, you had to go around the east side and take that little bridge.
Oh
to
yeah,
go down
yeah.
the bayou.
The little pontoon. Not the little pontoon, but yeah, I know what you're saying.
The one that like swings out like that.
Yeah.
Or it's supposed to.
Bunch of bridge problems going on at Homa, man.
Hey,
The
you
Dular's
can't-
overpass, I think, is down right now, and
It is all kind of and they still got that bridge in like Berg that's been out forever or something like that.
Golly, I forgot about that one. Sheesh.
It's like going I forget what area that is, but it's like going towards like Chauvin, Berg, and stuff like that.
Yeah. Dang. Hmm. So from here, I guess I'll do weather. I'll bump back in and then just do the interview.
Yep.
It will come as no surprise, but the Gad Black case is why we should keep the death penalty.
That's the guy that committed
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's what Galen had said on here.
Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. I am Cade Wazan, filling in for the great Brian Haldane. The new school year is off and running. If your kids hadn't started last week, probably this week. And along with the start of the school year is the start of the sports calendar in the fall. Cross country, swimming, volleyball, and of course, Friday Night Lights. And with that said, when you're talking high school sports in the state of Louisiana, why not go ahead and get someone from the LHSA? And if you're getting someone from the LHSA, why not the executive director, Mr. Eddie Bonine? Mr. Bonine, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Kate, good morning. And yes, it's always an exciting time. It just seems like that this start date just keeps creeping deeper and deeper into August. But it's still at predominantly majority, if not predominantly all the parishes are back in school and permissive practices are in full force. So yes, it's an exciting time and participation numbers are up, and we're excited about what the 25-26 has to offer for us.
Well, with the start of a new sports calendar in 2025 and 2026 school and sports year, there is something new at the Louisiana Coaches Association. A longtime Louisiana Coaches Association director, Eric Held, who did such a great job at that position, moved on to another opportunity. And in comes a first for the Louisiana High School Athletic Association, the first female to hold that job, and that is Miss Jessica Barber. And Mr. Bonine, give us an introduction to Miss Jessica Barber as the new director of the Coaches Association.
Well, first of all, female or male, Jessica is come in and followed a tough act. Let's just put it that way. You all know Coach Hell did an incredible job for us in that role. with the LHSCA. And of course, he's now over at LSU and a really good spot over there. And LSU is lucky to have him with his background knowledge. And of course, there's not a coach he doesn't know for years. I mean, he's that guy. Jessica Barber, she is a Louisianian through and through, comes to us from Washington Parish, Franklinton High School specifically, had a good career, high school herself, collegiate career, as well as went on in coaching, coached women's basketball down in New Orleans area at the car, and then went on to the college level and coached and had a good career coaching there as well. And she's back and stepped right in, kind of at a tough spot right before the Louisiana High School Coaches Association Summer Conference, which we had well over 1,000 people in attendance for that. Good attendance. The speakers were outstanding. In fact, Coach Kim Mulkey came and gave us an hour of her time. The room was packed, and Jessica's done a super job. She's again stepped in on the run. It was not the optimal time to take the job, but she did. The process was clean, and she's done an incredible job. We're lucky to have her, and she's making a good adjustment, and she's going to bring some good stuff to the association.
State legislators have put together an oversight committee led by Speaker Pro Tem Mike Johnson from the North Louisiana area, not Mike Johnson congressional side, the other Mike Johnson from the 318, put together a 10-member committee. They're set to meet, I believe, at least one time each month over the course of the fall and leading into early 2026. And I believe they've invited you, Mr. Bonine, and members of your staff to at least their first meeting just a couple days ago with the idea that I guess they're going to ask some questions, do some inquiry. And do you have a background on what their overall goal is and what they're trying to accomplish?
The first hearing of the potential July, August, September, October, November, December, January, and then the second week of February is when this particular study committee is to be finished with their work, with the recommendation, whatever that means. We met on Tuesday, July 29th, from a little after 10 till a little after 1:30. I myself was the only testimony at the time. I answered a lot of questions throughout the committee, but the main focus seemed to be on transfers, getting an understanding of how that process works, the composition of our executive committee and the composition of the LHSA, in how that works with the membership, and it actually came up the conversation of the private-public split, select, non-select now by title, about resolve there. And then we talked about finances. We talked about overall general operational pieces of the LHSA, which has been in place for many, many years. And of course, the LHSA, we have served the Louisiana for over 105 years now. So it's more informational, and I think it's a matter of them finding out what we do and what the expectations of our membership are, what our expectations of our officials are, what our expectations of the coaches in our state are, and the process in which we go to run the organization in a professional manner. And we'll see how it plays out. There has not been a date set for August, to my knowledge, at this point. But when we find that out, then it'll be public knowledge. Those are public hearings. In fact, I believe this hearing on the 29th was streamed and archived somewhere. So we'll cooperate. We have nothing to hide. We are being as transparent as we always are. You know that. You and I have been working together for many years. This being my 10th year as your executive director, going into my 11th year actually. And we'll see how it plays out. We have a process at the LHSA we have to abide by when it comes to day-to-day operations, how we put our bylaws and constitution together. You know that. You've covered our January conventions before. The process we have in place, if there's specific rules, whether it be the transfer rule, whether it be academics, which we stay in line with the Department of Education, and make sure that we're not violating laws, that our recommendations and our requirements are in line with that. We do all of those things by the membership, which is the principals. There's 404 of those across the state, and they send their 26 representatives to Baton Rouge when we need, and that's how the accountability comes into place for what they put in place and what their expectations of not only myself but my staff is when it comes to implementing the bylaws in a safe but also consistent manner, and that's what we do.
You know, Mr. Bonine, we're joined by LHSAA Executive Director Eddie Bonine. Sometimes, and you may not be able to comment on this, I think some of this hostility is misdirected. And as you were pointing out, with the Coaches Association, there is a tight relationship between the LHSA and the LHSCA, although they are separate. The blame gets put on the LHSA, but this is a member organization when it comes to the vote of, let's say, I know this came up not that long ago, the one-time transfer rule or NIL or a definition of select or non-select. These are things that members vote on. So if you have a concern or if you feel like something is not being done, it should be directed towards the members, the principals, right?
Correct. There's no one decision that my office or I make from the day to day that we don't follow rules. Of course, there are situations in which we do have some flexibility, but that flexibility is not a large flexibility. It's just sometimes you just use some common sense. But at the end of the day, when you mentioned when the transfer rules in place, then there's stipulations in regards to what you can and can't do with those. And if the word shall is listed in that language anywhere, then that shall be what we do. There's not a lot of wiggle room there. So I'm going to say, yeah, I'm misdirected, but I am the face. I am the executive director of the LHSAA. And I think that first meeting we had at the state capitol is one that they can understand the process that we have in place. And yes, I am the executive director, but at the end of the day, Cade, I am to enforce the rules. If there's a specific rule, in this case, it seemed like the transfer rule is in question, which they said they get the most complaints about when one of their constituents, student athletes, is not deemed eligible, whether it be sub-varsity or full varsity eligibility. That's where they get the most complaints. A couple of years ago, the school choice was on the forefront burner. We wanted to try to get ahead of that so that if we didn't want to be hurdled. That if a school and a parent wanted to just go to a different school, whether it be through scholarshiping, whether it be through the Pelican Project, whatever that is, that we didn't want to be that obstacle. We made the changes we need with that initially on the ground level for that. And any other changes beyond that has got to be done like our legislative session, which is at the January convention with our voting members. The bottom line is it's a principals organization. The bottom line is that if there's going to be any rule changes, they do that. I do not have the authority just to arbitrarily change a rule and implement something. There's a check and balance and accountability for what we put in place, and that's done at the convention every year. And then that following July 1, when everything goes into place, it's my job and my staff's job to implement those to the letter, and that's what we do.
I know you speak to a lot of other executive directors or people who have similar or who hold similar positions to you around the country. When you look at things like name, image, and likeness, when you look at things like this transfer, what is some of the overall voice or overall feedback you get from other states and how they're handling this? Because I know the NIL landscape is murky even on the college level. So at the high school level, you guys have worked to get ahead of the game, but what's the overall conversation like?
For NIL, we work collaboratively with the state. We were ahead of the curve with that 3 years ago. If you recall, we brought in an outside vendor, Eckert Sports, that assisted us in the language and what we were going to do, the NIL. And that was all about education to the membership. It wasn't, we were not legislating or regulating that. And then, of course, we were ahead of the curve on that. Now here it is staring us in the face 3 years later. We were ahead of the curve with transgender. You probably follow the legislation in our state. The language that we had in our transgender position statement within our handbook is some of the language that was used to put the act in place here in the state of Louisiana as it deals with transgender. We're ahead of that. We were ahead of the curve on the homeschooling participation. So we've always tried to be progressive and stay ahead of items, not waiting until they're staring us in the eye. And now we're exchanging business cards, right? So we were always trying to be ahead of that. And I think we've done a good job with that. presently there's 26 states in the United States that are in the crosshairs of the federal government in regards to their transgender policy or lack thereof. So we're ahead of that. I'm honored to sit on the National Federation of State High Schools board of directors representing Section 3, which is there's 8 sections in the NFHS, and Section 3 represents basically the FCC, for lack of better words, of the nation. This is I'm in my beginning my third year of a 4-year term, and that in itself gives me the abilities to have a voice representing not only the states in the South but Louisiana. And people look up to some of the things we are doing here and what we've done, and that reflects on my staff and reflects on the principles of the state of Louisiana. So we have been as proactive as we can. And sometimes, okay, being proactive and being preventative is not always popular. And we understand that, but that's we always keep our focus on what's in the best interest of the students, and we try to do what we can to maintain that consistency. And I think that we've done a good job doing that in the course of the last few years.
Well, man, whether it's cross country, swimming, volleyball, or under the lights on Friday night, the school year is here. The fall session of sports is underway, and there is very few things as exciting as this time of year. It's a year-round thing, but when things get started, there's the spirit of optimism. Everybody's ready. And Mr. Bonine, we appreciate your time this morning here on Talk 107.3, and best of luck getting things started here in 2025.
Cade, appreciate you reaching out, and we appreciate what you and your team have done with prep sports across the state of Louisiana, and hopefully we continue to work together. Thank you so much.
All right, we are back. Mike's back on Facebook.
Good morning, Renee. Good morning, Matt. Good morning, Galen. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for getting involved. I'm not Brian, but I'm trying my best.
Yeah. Good morning, y'all. Some of the glorified crew in there.
Some regulars.
Oh yeah.
I'll try to speed through or maybe I'll start the top stories earlier. I think I ran a little long in the first hour.
Do you think I went too long on the trending? Should I maybe give maybe the first sentence or so?
I would maybe see if you can scale back that second story.
Okay.
Because I probably wrote it too long.
Yeah. Because I can even read it as a headline, yeah, tragic scene unfolded outside the CDC headquarters in Atlanta Friday afternoon, where a gunman opened fire, killing DeKalb. I guess that's right?
DeKalb County, yeah.
Yeah, County Police Officer David Rose, and then we can expound upon that.
Yeah, I would say. Let me see.
Because even the first one, I could just read that first sentence as a headline.
You can end it after. You can end the second one after him blaming the COVID-19 vaccine.
Okay.
The first one. After saying that they're going to meet, her and Dr. Brumley going to meet this morning at 9:30.
Okay.
And that last one's fine. It's shorter.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, all right. I'll get this Jaguars kicker story.
No, Rocco, we haven't recovered yet. Slowly but surely, though. Rocco asked if we've recovered from Friday yet, from those po' boys.
.655 here on Monday morning. Cade Wazday in for the great Brian Haldane on Mornings with Brian Haldane. Brian will be back tomorrow, I believe. That's the plan. Coming up in hour number 2, Medical Monday, as we explore the benefits, the risks, and what's involved with GLP-1. What did the president call it? The fat shot. I don't know if that's necessarily what it is, but they're options, and they can help in your weight loss journey. We're also going to be talking shrimp because today's the opening day of the inshore fall shrimping season. Louisiana Shrimp Association President Acy Cooper Jr. So talking shrimp in hour 2 and talking Saints with Ross Jackson in hour 3. Over the weekend, first full weekend of preseason football, and outside of the Saints, something interesting. It kind of correlates to Saints as far as history is concerned. Jacksonville Jaguars kicker, former Arkansas Razorback, Cam Little, hit one from 70 yards just before halftime against the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is what it sounded like with Brian Sexton and Bookie Brooks on the call.
Holy smokes. They got a shot.
He just kicked a 70-yard field goal. Are you kidding me?
Crazy.
I've never seen that. The NFL record. That would be an NFL record.
The first half. Holy smokes.
That's unbelievable.
The "that's crazy" line kind of reminded me of when Will Ferrell got hit with a tranquilizer in why am I blanking on the movie? But when you consider longest field goal, so it's preseason and it doesn't count for Old School. What was the movie? It's preseason, so it doesn't count towards the records. The record's still being held by Justin Tucker for a 66-yard field goal he made against the Lions in 2021. Brandon Aubrey had a 65-yarder in 2024. He is in second place on that record. Matt Prater had a 64-yarder back in 2013. Tom Dempsey held that record for quite a while. November 8th, 1970, Saints kicker Tom Dempsey had the 63-yard field goal. And a ton of people joined that club later on, much later on. In 1998, Jason Elam did it for the Broncos. Seabass, Sebastian Janikowski in 2011 hit a 63-yarder. David Akers for the 49ers did it in 2012. Graham Gano in 2018 for the Panthers. Brett Maher did it for the Cowboys in 2019. Joey Sly in 2024 for the Patriots. So we know that that was one of the bright spots in not so many in Saints history. Tom Dempsey doing it with not even a full foot, banging a 63-yarder, and now you got 70-yarders being made. And that thing looked as if it had a little more room as well. So, look, maybe a sign of things to come. The Jags did lose to the Steelers in that preseason game. Like I said, preseason record, nobody's playing for a championship there. But if you can bang them from 70, that's a good weapon to have. We'll see. We'll see. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. All right. So top of the hour news coming up in just a bit. We'll hear from CBS. We'll get a check on traffic, and then we'll recap our top stories and trending, and we'll see if we can get a ketchup smoothie for JP in the break. I'll have some coffee. He's all into these ketchup smoothies right now. So we'll see as we get to our top of the hour break coming up in just a couple of seconds. This is Mornings with Brian Haldane. I'm filling in. I'm Cade Wazday here on Talk 107.3, Talk 107.3 Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Brian must have a court date related to his Medicaid issue. Look, it's Byron says Brian must have a court date related to his Medicaid issue. Yeah. Yes. Franz Borghardt is his defendant. Oh man. So what say you, Facebook crew? Anybody gonna try out this new ketchup smoothie? You think it has the ketchup taste? Like, is it gonna be like, I don't know, man. That's nearly nauseating thinking about that. Sipping that through a straw?
I think they kind of like say it's ketchup, but with the ingredients, it doesn't seem like
Yeah.
ketchup.
Yeah. Yeah, acai sorbet, apple juice, strawberries, and raspberries. Oof. Yeah, Renee, it does sound awful. Byron, I'm holding out for the horseradish smoothie. There you go. Byron says he's holding out for the horseradish smoothie. Oof. Oh, Matt, you missed the Medicaid issue? Well, Brian's doppelganger got caught for Medicaid fraud. Busted.
Yeah. Who's this? Byron? Big dog? It's 7:05 here on Monday morning. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. I am your host for today, in for the great Brian Haldane, Cade Wazan, JP producing. Feedback coming on our Facebook live feed. for the ketchup smoothie. I believe Renee said that sounds awful. I don't think there's going to be a lot of positive feedback. Byron says I'm holding out for the horse radish smoothie. Like I don't eat anything with horse in it, so that's up to you. Also weighing in, we've got the Reverend of Roast Beef, the pastor of Po' Boys, Troy Rocco Morrow.
Yeah.
Inside the chat. Have you boys recovered from Friday yet? A nice po' boy on that Leidenheimer bread. The Rocco's roast beef is delicious. We got to sample that on Friday. Also hear some stories that are, you know what? They're fit for Facebook and YouTube. Go back to the Talk 1073 Baton Rouge YouTube channel from Friday's show. Listen to the last 10 minutes and extended time. Had a little OT with Rocco on Friday. Yeah. And hear the conversation. I think it's meant for that. It's not maybe fit for the radio conversation, but you can go back and hear that. It is fantastic. We always appreciate when he stops by. Medical Monday in just a couple of minutes, but let's get to top stories and trending.
Number 5.
So the headline was a little deceiving on this one because I was initially thinking it was related to the hot air balloons. There was a festival over the weekend in Zachary, dubbed the Really Hot Air Balloon Festival. 2 people were burned in an accident at the festival Saturday afternoon, but it was related, according to festival organizers, to a food truck on site. Now, both victims are said to be in serious condition, with one having to be taken away via airmed.
Number 4.
3 men are being sought by the Tangipahoa Parish Sheriff's Office, easy for everyone else to say, after allegedly fleeing a crash in Hammond and leaving a gun in a gas station ice machine. The vehicle they abandoned had been stolen from Independence about a year ago and contained some drugs and some firearms. Authorities believe the men are connected to a July shooting at Independence. No injuries were reported. The public is being asked to help identify and locate the suspects.
Number 3.
Bad story with at least a good result, because a 2-year-old boy is safe after being left in a hot car in Shreveport for up to 30 minutes. Someone saw the little boy in the car outside of a store, flagged down a police officer who was just about 100 yards away. Police Corporal Christopher Bordelon says despite the fact that it was before noon, temperatures were getting real hot. Real glad he got there in time. The boy's mother was arrested and is facing a single count of child desertion.
Number 2.
LSU freshman running back J.T. Lindsey has been suspended from the football team after being arrested for accessory after the fact to second-degree murder. He's accused of allowing 2 suspects in a May homicide to stay in his dorm. Lindsey's attorney says he is innocent, didn't know these individuals were wanted by the police when they came to stay at his house. Per LSU policy, though, he will remain suspended until the charges are resolved. LSU kicks off their season in, 2 weeks? 3 weeks? 2 weeks from this Saturday. So we shall see. We'll follow this story more at louisianasports.net.
Number 1.
And today's number 1 story, a tough one. Sergeant Caleb Eisworth of the Baton Rouge Police Department passed away Sunday morning from injuries sustained in June when a man allegedly drove a truck into his motorcycle. The suspect was arrested the same day and initially charged with attempted first-degree murder. DA Hiller Moore is trying to upgrade that to first-degree murder and seek the death penalty, pending discussions and conversations with Eisworth's family. Eisworth was a decorated officer honored with BRPD's Medal of Valor and multiple awards for heroism. That is your top stories. Let's move on to what is trending.
All right. Well, U.S. Secretary of Education Linda McMahon is in town today to kick off her Returning Education to the States tour. Secretary McMahon will be joined by Louisiana State Superintendent of Education, Dr. Cade Brumley, at Jefferson Terrace Academy this morning at 9:30.
I wonder if I told Brian they should have like a hype video, like a WWE hype video for this, with her busting through the doors, coming in. But it's interesting. She makes Louisiana her first stop for that tour. She's going to visit all 50 states, come in here first. So that's cool.
Yeah,
I think that shows a lot of the hard work that Dr. Brumley's done, a lot of the things that Louisiana's kind of improved upon.
Yeah.
So let's see. Good news.
Absolutely. Not so good news here coming out of Georgia, where a tragic scene unfolded outside the CDC headquarters in Atlanta on Friday afternoon, where a gunman opened fire, killing DeKalb County police officer David Rose. Authorities say the shooter, a 30-year-old Patrick Joseph White, was armed with multiple weapons and blamed the COVID-19 vaccine for his mental health struggles.
Look, I don't know, and we still don't know the lingering effects of what the COVID-19 pandemic will have on future generations, from the time away from school, the time of not being social. Are there lingering effects? I'm not here to tell you about. Look, I took the vaccine. I had 2 of them.
Yeah.
I don't know if that thing is going to cause problems down the road. Man, this is tough. It's sad for the officer out there, and we'll continue to follow the story, certainly on a national level. I'm sure Brian Kilmeade will have it later today.
Yes, indeed. Well, Heinz and Smoothie King have teamed up to launch a limited time Heinz tomato ketchup smoothie, blending the savory condiment with Acy sorbet, apple juice, strawberries, and raspberries.
Relish smoothie wasn't available?
They're just doing everything, right? Like, they're just trying
make it
anything.
the hot dog one. Put the ketchup and the relish and the mustard.
Man.
Yeah.
Oof. Yeah, this is terrible.
But see, the ingredients point to it not tasting. It's not like you're getting ketchup out of a bottle, and blending it together with some other fruit. Look, when you talk about other fruit or vegetables, people drink. There's a beverage I mix in the morning that's supposed to have fruit and vegetables in it.
Yeah,
I've had avocados inside a margarita, delicious. Tomatoes, as far as a Bloody Mary or something like that. Yeah, not my favorite, but I naturally think of the tomato paste being part of this smoothie, and I say no.
I know. I see the pictures of it and everything. It's just, it's I don't know, man.
Tomato
depravity at
smoothie.
Its worst. But if tomatoes are a fruit, is ketchup a smoothie? Can it be? I guess we'll find out. Huh?
I guess we'll find out. We'll have to get one for you because I know you've been dying to have it.
Oh,
Smoothie King, if you're listening out there, John, just desperately want.
I want. Please send a sample.
Yeah,
send
whatever the biggest size you have.
Ooh.
Yeah, meal replacement. All right, we'll take a time out when we get back. Medical Monday, talking GLP-1 next on Mornings with Brian Haldane.
All right, so they should be calling it, right? They usually do, yeah. Medical Monday has its own open. Do you want me to use that when we? Okay. Oh yeah, Or I guess if they hadn't called by, we're about to come back in.
All right, welcome back to Mornings with Brian Haldane. And for the great Brian Haldane, I am Cade of Wazan. As we roll right along, expecting a call any time now from our doctor over at OLOL. The conversation today centering around GLP-1 medications, the ones that are basically the hottest thing since sliced bread at the moment as far as medical field is concerned. Whether you're taking the semaglutide or the trisepatide, I could be getting that second one wrong. It's two forms, and you can get either or. I've had family members who have taken them and have had success. And some of it is how you get covered or insurance covering it. And are you using it the right way? Is it a way to jumpstart your weight loss journey? I don't think it's something you can think just to become dependent on all the time. So we'll find out a little more. It's certainly something a lot of people are talking about. And we mentioned in trending stories, U.S. Secretary of Education Linda McMahon is going to be visiting the state today. She'll be here at 9:30. And by here, I mean Jefferson Terrace Academy over in Upton Drive. She's meeting with State Superintendent of Education, Cade Brumley, learning a little bit more about Louisiana's education needs, how we've performed. I mean, when you consider we've achieved, Louisiana students, that is, the highest national ranking on the nation's report card, moving up in all subjects across the board, improving the overall ranking from 49th in 2019 to 32nd in 2024. That's huge. Louisiana fourth graders have led the nation in reading growth for 2 consecutive cycles of the nation's report card and are now ranked 16th in the country. So, for so many years, you can go to and find the list on what Louisiana's ranked in the bad categories and where we stink at. You want to talk roads? You want to talk diseases like it was discussed on Friday? There's a lot of things you can talk about where we are just not good at and we don't perform well. But we should also applaud and give credit where credit is due when you go from a 49 to a 32. When you're now ranking 16 in certain categories. The Education Recovery Scorecards ranks Louisiana first in the nation for reading and second for math. Awesome. And you know what's crazy? You take all these math classes, and they're needed. It's needed. And then you grow up, and cell phones become such a prominent piece of your daily life. And I forget most of the math I probably learned. And I use my calculator for tips at restaurants on my phone. And I should be able to do that in my head. I don't. But needless to say, Louisiana is improving in a lot of ways. The study also found that Louisiana is the only state where the average student has completed their recovery. Under the leadership of Dr. Brumley in a recent write-up, with the support of Bessie, Louisiana has made historic education progress. Comprehensive BRAVE plan for Louisiana education represents a bold vision to address the unique challenges facing Louisiana while building on recent success. The plan's 5 pillars: back to basics, redesign high schools, accelerate parental rights, value teaching professionals, and expand education freedom, are driving changes at the state and local level and helping position Louisiana as a national leader in K through 12. I know that the big push is moving away from the Department of Education on a national level and bringing it back to the states. That's what this campaign is all about. And Secretary McMahon will be here. She'll be in Arkansas. She'll be in a couple other states in the South, visiting all, but starting here in Baton Rouge for her Louisiana visit. So look forward to seeing what comes out of that. I'm sure we will get a recap, especially from Dr. Brumley sometime this week or in his next visit with Brian Haldane. Awaiting our visit with Medical Monday and the team at Our Lady of the Lake. Each and every week we have a chance to check in with one of their doctors, and just waiting for the phone call so we can get into that topic. Some other things to discuss. I saw over the weekend LSU football certainly wrapping up. We're not wrapping up there. I think they're in around practice 10 or 11. John, we had a couple of cuts from over the weekend there. I think a lot of worry was hopefully squashed following rumors around quarterback Garrett Nussmeier and potential injuries and things like that. Joe Sloan, entering his second year as the offensive coordinator for LSU, known for his ability to develop quarterbacks and work with some pretty talented quarterbacks like 2023 Heisman winner Jaden Daniels. His opinion, Garrett Nussmeier transitions into year 2 as the starter, and he believes his quarterback is showing improvements. And coming from SEC experience, that means a lot.
And that's a lot of it, first-year starter to second-year starter, and having those technical things that I need to work on because I know what happens to me in a game situation, and I know what I need to be thinking, what I need to do with my feet, and where I can miss or where I can maybe be a little bit more aggressive. And that's what I've seen his growth.
One of LSU's strongest groups on the team. They're pretty deep, pretty talented at wide receiver. We know that. The Tigers were maybe, trying to be nice, they weren't much of a vertical threat last season in the passing game. But they've got some leadership and some talent from a guy you saw play right down the road in fifth-year senior Chris Hilton. Got to watch that young man play a lot of Friday nights. Just a very talented man, good head on his shoulders. Coach Sloan says the Tigers are able to add another element to its offense this season.
Obviously, his speed, I think you can look in the last couple of games last year, our ability to attack vertically really changes when he's out there. Being able to push the ball down the field is a huge thing. Chris has been consistent. I think he has great attitude, great body language, and is attacking every day. And that's when he does that, he's going to play really good football.
Fall camp is finishing its first week, now heading into week 2. Kickoff for the Tigers against Clemson 2 weeks from this Saturday. It'll be on our sister station, Eagle 98.1. Excited for football season to start. But fall camp will continue, and LSU is trying to find its starting 5 on the offensive line, the ever so important guys in the trenches. The Tigers are looking to replace the production of 4 key departures in the offensive line room. Coach Sloan says the competition and position battles bring the best out of each player.
I think the guards, there's a lot of competition. And I think you're seeing flashes of different guys daily who are playing really well, which has been fun to see. Guys are having to come out every single day and show up. And I think Braylon's played extremely good at center. And I think we have a couple other guys who could, we have some depth at center, which is nice.
Like I said, LSU in just about 2 weeks from this Saturday, kicking off against Clemson. And you'll hear that on our sister station, Eagle 98.1. Elsewhere in the SEC, an interesting story last week, and I don't think this comes at any surprise. The team picked in the coaches poll as the number 1 preseason college football team, the Texas Longhorns. Their quarterback, the grandson of Archie Manning, the next Manning up. Ooh, did I just coin a phrase? is not the next man, the next Manning up. Do with that what you will. That's gold. He's entering his third year at Texas, and I believe this will be his first full year where he's a man. Despite some speculation, Archie, Grandpa, told Texas Monthly that Arch is not planning to enter the NFL draft early. Quote, Arch isn't going to do that. He'll be at Texas. Look, Mannings don't typically leave early. They play out their time. And for Arch, when you talk about leaving, I don't, who knows what this year will play out to be. But it's in his benefit to go through this year, continue to grind, continue to get better, come back for another year. And I mean, considering what he's making in NIL right now, you think, I mean, sometimes it's, well, hey man, you got to cash in while the iron's hot. You're projected to be here. You're going to make this. I don't think that motivates Arch Manning. I think he's making pretty good money as a college football player, which is interesting to say. I think he's had a lot of time to gain reps, sitting behind some pretty talented quarterbacks. We knew for some time he was going to be pretty good. It's always that conversation. Wait till the next one. He's over there in New Orleans and Newman. Wait till that kid comes here. Well, now it's the year. So Grandpa's saying, look, if you're trying to stink for Manning, I don't know, what's the catchphrase? Muck it up for Manning and hope that he's there when you're pick number one this year. Not going to happen. Peyton Manning was a 4-year starter at Tennessee, number overall pick in 1998. Eli, 3-year starter at Ole Miss, number one overall pick in 2004. Archie, 3-year starter at Ole Miss, number 2 overall pick in 1971 for the Saints. For Arch, 2023, appeared in 2 games behind starter Quinn Ewers. In 2024, as a sophomore, he played 10 games, started 2, 9 touchdowns, 4 rushing touchdowns, 9 passing touchdowns, 4 rushing touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. One thing that Arch has above, I would say, his uncles and probably Grandpa is he's pretty mobile. If he declares after the 2025 season, his draft class would hinge on just 1 full season as a starter. Regardless of timing, Arch is projected to be a top pick in either the 2026 or 2027 draft. So, we shall see. There's a lot of Manning hate in Louisiana. I don't necessarily get it. I'm grateful we have those kind of ambassadors for the state. Maybe it comes back to them not choosing to play in the hometown school. Look, go where you want to go, right? So, there you go. We will, I guess, get rain check on our Medical Monday segment. Really good topic to discuss because GLP-1 has been, look at that. Nothing but the bottom of the basket over there.
Did you made it?
Iced.
Nice.
Does Haldane do that? He played basketball.
He does. Yeah.
That was one-handed too.
That was one-handed.
Mark that down. It's on video. I mean, the video doesn't show
but still
me draining it, but yeah, that's got to be known.
I like that.
A shout out to my wife, Candace, bringing baby girl Annabelle to school. Hope you have a great day at school, baby girl. I'll pick you up this afternoon. So there's your shout out. Love you. Coming up next, CBS News and our local news.
CBS or ABC?
ABC. I'm an idiot.
Yeah, I was watching the phone. I didn't know if I'm like, and call. but I can hear it I listen to it in my in ear.
Yeah.
But is there?
I think when that mic's on, it kills the main mic will kill the PA. Yeah.
I don't mind.
How does this interview coming up start? Yep. How long is it? 14 minutes? I would say as far as posting, maybe the shrimp one. Yeah, let's see. Um, It is Mornings with Brian Haldane, filling in for the great Brian Haldane. I am Cade Wazan. Today is the start, the open of the Inshore Fall 2025 White Shrimp season, a date that was originally set for August 1st, pushed back a little bit, and today the season opens up. To sort things out, to kind of get an idea of what we should expect, let's go ahead and welcome in the president of the Louisiana Shrimp Association, Acy Cooper Jr. Mr. Cooper, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Thank y'all for having me.
So the change of date moved from August 1st to August 11th. Can you give us an idea of what went into making that change?
Well, they call us, really the meeting to set the date was on the 8th, and they call a special meeting on the first, before the first, to have a special opening. And when they did that, we still had a lot of small shrimp inside, and we don't make no money on little shrimp. So when the discussion came up, a lot of fishermen came and pushed the point of leaving it closed a little while longer in order to where the shrimp can grow, so we'll get a little better prices for them. Our prices for small shrimp are just too low for us to make any money. And we need bigger shrimp that we can retail, that people really want. If we catch little shrimp, then it goes straight to the factories, and the factories don't want to pay us anything. So we much rather have a bigger shrimp to where we can retail to the consumer, to the people on the street, because that's the way we make our money. If we try to go to the docks with them, there's just no money in it anymore. So we're looking for a bigger size shrimp, is what it all came down to. Back in the day, it used to be third Monday. So but it was changed to where they can set it and open and close it when they want. But they haven't been working too well, so let's see if it works any better if we just wait a couple more weeks and get a bigger size.
Is this one of the later starts to the season? In your experience with the work you do, what's the latest something would start for the fall season?
Well, like I said, before the change, it was a third Monday. It was set dates. It was always a third Monday. So really, it's a week earlier than what it used to be until we had the law change and try. And the law was changed in order to if they had big shrimp early on, that we can call a special season and go catch them before they leave. But that hasn't been working too well. When they try to get a special season to open up, the people really was against it because of you go in there and catch the big ones. How many little ones are you going to be harming? So it hasn't been working. So we may have to look at setting a date a little bit later than what the biologists say, which I believe in the data. The data don't lie. They've been doing it for 50 years, and they're pretty much close on the size, and they're pretty much close on how many they have. So we may have to take a look at passing a legislation to change that again if the people want it.
So when you try to figure out when the shrimp are going to be a great marketable size, what factors into that? Like over the past 6 to 8 months, is there certain things that happen during the winter that can give us some clues as to what may be a good or bad season?
Well, like Batalia Bay and Venice, where I'm at, the river has a lot to do with it. There's a big factor in it because these are saltwater species. When you have an abundance of fresh water, in the last couple of years, we had high river. We opened the spring season up early, and what happened was the fresh water was cold. They don't grow, and it was over $100 a pound. We didn't make no money with that. So the fact is, everything has to do with Mother Nature. The river's high is bad, but before the past previous 2 years we had high river. The previous 3 years before that we had low river. We had abundance of shrimp. We had good crops, everything was there. But when you get a year with the river staying high for a long period of time, like it did this year, that all plays into it because, like I said, it's a saltwater species, and when you're overwhelmed the bays and all with fresh water, then they can't come in.
Yeah, I guess it's a little bit of a balancing act, right? I mean, you don't want to wait too long. You got people who rely on this as their livelihood, people who rely on the other sides of the industry for those who are helping prepare the shrimpers to get out there, whether it be the service stations or fuel or, all the industries around this industry, and certainly the consumer as well, right? I mean, so it's this balancing act of making sure you're waiting, I guess, long enough, but not waiting too long to where you hurt yourself financially.
Correct. The thing is that we need to go to work, and the longer we hold back, then the less days we have, because the fall season ends in December. And between now and October, in September, when the fronts start coming, then you're going to start seeing a smaller shrimp. And because once the water gets cold, they don't grow anymore. They stay smaller. So we got a short window here to do what we need to do and make money. Because, back in the day, we used to better do everything. We used to fish in the wintertime. They took our gill nets away. We can't fish no more. We can't fish redfish. We can't fish trout. We can't fish the people that really wants them. So what they've done, they put all our eggs in one basket. And now all we have to do is shrimp. And we have to heavily rely on that income to try to make it through the winter. Not only live through the winter, we have to have enough in order to prepare our boats to get back ready to go for the spring season. So it's a hard balancing act. And look, in year 2000, we had 20,000 licenses sold. Today, we probably have 4,000. And out of that 4,000, we probably have 3,000 that's actually working. So we lose in this industry. The average age of a fisherman is 58 years old. And we continue on the road that we're on today, we're going to lose this industry. I'm not going to tell you that it's not going to be a mom and pop shop to where you can go to the coast and buy some shrimp from somebody. But as we know it, it's not going to happen because imports is overwhelming this country with shrimp. And when they started bringing the import, they bring 2 billion pounds a year. We only consume 1.5 billion. So when you bring an excess of 500 million pounds, we as fishermen, when we get ready to go out, they already have 500 million pounds in the cold storage. Then what happens is our prices are low because we competing with a foreign market that has low prices, just like crawfish. In fact, one of the guys I know right here, he just went and bought crawfish in the store, and shrimp's the same exact way. I'm just going to use this as an example. $8 a pound for a pound of crawfish. Domestic crawfish was $19 a pound. Which one do you think he's going to grab? He's going to grab the cheaper one. And that's what happens with shrimp. But you don't realize when you do that, you're killing the industry. You're eating something out of a pond that has antibiotics and steroids, and it's closed in. Shrimp are bottom feeders. When they feed them, you do what you do, and they're bottom feeders, so they're all on the bottom, and they continue putting all these shrimp in these little ponds. But theirs don't compare to ours. But yet, they still let this stuff come in and overwhelm this industry. And we've been working with the Trump administration to try to get this changed. And the tariffs are something that we want. And I met with the Department of Health. And one of the guys met with the Department of Health. I met with the Department of Labor and the Department of Commerce to try to get some laws changed and some restrictions on them to where give us some leeway. You can't overwhelm our industry. So now you see the big picture. We have to go to work. We have a limited time to do it. We can't do anything else. Imports is just tearing us to pieces. We're losing this industry. Our average age of a fisherman is 58 years old. Younger guys can't get into it because they see the issues that we go through as I'm a 50-year fisherman. If I can't make it, how do you think a younger guy is going to get in this business and make it? So there's a lot of factors falling in play in order for us to survive. And that's a big issue. Size limit makes a difference so we can make some money. We need to make money in order to live.
We're speaking with Louisiana Shrimp Association President Acy Cooper Jr., and you bring up the foreign shrimp. I know that President Trump recently issued a 25% tariff on shrimp imports from India. I know that there's shrimp that come in from Indonesia, Vietnam. I would guess you'd be in favor of something like this so that we promote better consumption of what we have here in, Sportsman's Paradise.
Oh yes, you can't compare it to Louisiana seafood. There's no way. There's no comparison to it. Whenever you buy it and eat it, you can tell the difference. Yeah, India's right at that 33.2% of tariffs, which we want that. We definitely want that. We need that. Indonesia's around 22.9. So the more you put on them, the higher the price goes. Then that helps us out in the long run because Louisiana doesn't want to lose our fishing industry. Though we got such a deficit of seafood in this country with these foreign countries, and we don't have to. We shouldn't have a deficit. All you got to do is say go, and we can go catch your fish. We can go do whatever you want, and it won't cost the country a penny. Let us start feeding the people where it's supposed to be. Because when you go in a restaurant, you really come, especially people the tourists that come to Louisiana, they thinking they eat Louisiana seafood, but they're really not, and that's an issue.
How much of what's caught is something that we consume here in Louisiana? You don't have to give me exact numbers. What percentage maybe is exported outside of Louisiana into different states?
From Louisiana?
Yes, sir.
Louisiana can handle just about all we catch, but the domestic industry is the East Coast and the Gulf of Mexico. So you have 7 states that catches shrimp, and it's a lot. We used to be 100% of the industry that was consumed. Now we're about 10% and less. But if you continue on this road, we're going to be none. Everything's going to be overwhelmed with imports, and you're going to be eating something that you have no clue where it came from.
I will say, and I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, when I'm at the supermarket, I'm certainly mindful of getting shrimp that's local. Where, what level of transparency do you feel like we are at as far as restaurants, supermarkets that disclose this information and let you know up front what kind of shrimp, what kind of seafood you're getting?
Well, we passed legislation in 2019. I had put a bill in, and it passed that restaurants has to label their seafood, shrimp and crawfish, and then there was no meat behind it because it took us 20 years to pass it, which they told me I couldn't do it, but we did it. And we got so much publicity and fighting with it that Senator Connie wound up putting another bill in the Senate to where they had to have fines on it because first it was non-critical violation. There had 2,600 violations and not one fine. And then this time here with this law, they have big fines behind it. So when you go in a restaurant, if it doesn't say where your shrimp come from, you need to ask the manager or call the health department and tell them they're not labeling their seafood because there are laws against it. There's state and federal laws against it.
Thanks so much to Acy Cooper Jr., president of the Louisiana Shrimp Association, for his time this morning. Opening day, it was pushed back from August 1st to this morning for the inshore shrimp season fall of 2025. I'll check on the markets and in traffic, and we're right back after that. Have that Forrest Gump cut ready. Pay. All right, to Facebooks. Yeah, all right. Right? I mean, I don't know what Brian normally gets. He probably gets way more. He's more active in this space. Oh, mute myself. Mute myself. How long is this break? Like 2 minutes? Talk 1073 and Citizens Bank and Trust want to make things a little easier on your budget by making them groceries for an entire year. Even if you don't win the grand prize, we got a second chance prize of a $250 gift card to High Neighbor Supermarkets. It's free groceries for a year. Sweepstakes powered by Citizens Bank and Trust, High Neighbor, and Talk 1073. Register today at talk1073.com. 755. Cade Wazza in for the great Brian Haldane on Mornings with Brian Haldane. Thanks again to Acy Cooper Jr. from the Louisiana Shrimp Association. He is the president there. You know, he mentioned trying to put some legislation in regards to keeping places accountable for selling local seafood, shrimp, etc. But there wasn't a lot of meat behind it. Maybe that was the problem. There should have been a little more seafood behind it. You put meat there, maybe they didn't bite. But maybe a little seafood, right?
That's right.
Okay, fair enough. I was stewing on that dad joke for about 5 to 6 minutes. I didn't know how it would land. You know, speaking of shrimp, because I didn't inject this into the interview because I wanted him to speak. My great-grandfather was a shrimper. I grew up, just like JP, down the bayou. You bought shrimp on the side of the road in an ice chest, and they were beautiful. Bald shrimp is probably my favorite. Fried shrimp po' boy, probably also right up there, right? And you can make it a million different ways. But it reminded me over the weekend, heading into today's show, with this interview of the great clip from the movie Forrest Gump with one of the coolest characters ever, Bubba, schooling Forrest on the many ways you can enjoy shrimp.
Anyway, like I was saying, shrimp is the fruit of the sea. You can barbecue it, boil it, broil it, bake it, saute it. There's shrimp kebabs, shrimp creole, shrimp gumbo, pan fried, deep fried, stir fried. There's pineapple shrimp, lemon shrimp, coconut shrimp, pepper shrimp, shrimp soup, shrimp stew, shrimp salad, shrimp and potatoes, shrimp burger, shrimp sandwich. That's about it.
JP, your favorite shrimp? Go.
Boiled shrimp. I got to go with boiled shrimp.
Boiled
man.
shrimp, yeah.
Yeah. There's nothing like it, man.
No.
Boiled. And you know what I relate to when I think of boiled shrimp? That's what I think of. Immediately, I'm taken back down the bayou at my grandparents' house, and you know what I mean, having the family over. Immediately, that's where I go. So to me, I mean, boiled shrimp, it's just the taste, everything.
I mean, I know that there's like shrimp cocktail that's more of a chilled entree, but the hot boiled shrimp,
oh man,
with that flavor, I had a craving for it, and we went out during, I guess you would consider it, one of our peak seafood times during the Lenten season. Yeah. And on a Friday, and I knew what I was getting into. I knew I was going to pay a little more, but I just wanted that boiled shrimp on a plate, maybe a potato, maybe some dip, but that's the best. And
really is.
I'm not trying to pat myself on the back like I'm on an interview. I make sure when I go, I'm buying local. Yes. I want shrimp. I'm not just going to grab it from a big box store and cook it at home. It's something that, you know, I was blessed with as a kid, that I had family that had in the freezer at any point in time, fresh fish you could defrost, you know, locally caught shrimp, crabs, whatever. It's something that means a lot to me. So best of luck this season as they get out there and start catching everything under the sun with Moon Griffon coming up in about 15 minutes. This day in history, JP, you got that gathered?
Got it.
And Ross Jackson to talk about the Saints and recapping what happened in yesterday's preseason game. They spent a couple days more in Cali and then come home Sunday noon against the Jacksonville Jaguars for preseason game number 2. ABC News is coming up next here on Talk 107.3.
Oh, yeah. When it comes to shrimp, let's see. Renee says boiled shrimp, barbecue shrimp. Oh, yeah. I mean, shrimp on a kebab. Oh, I mean, Really, any type of shrimp. Sauteed shrimp. Mm. Some sauteed shrimp over some rice. Oh man,
Shrimp scampi
That's
my
good.
grandpa used to make.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah. Just so good.
I got time to make a quick trip to the restroom.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'm gonna send you Ross Jackson's contact. You have Moon's already? Okay. 2 hours in the book kind of flew by. I did a lot of homework to prepare for the show. I've hosted radio before. I've been in radio for some time, but I've never did this. And this was a little nervous in its preparation because I don't talk news talk a whole lot. I work behind the scenes for talk. Brian does a fantastic job every morning. I'm not just saying that. He really does. He hustles. He works a lot. And, you know, when it comes this time of year, sometimes there's double and triple shifts. And he needs some R&R. I hope he got to sleep in this morning. I hope he did because he deserves it. And I am more than happy to come in and help out. And maybe this is something I can continue doing. Positive comments inside the Facebook feed. So I appreciate that. We'll talk more Saints at the bottom of the hour with Ross Jackson of LouisianaSports.net. Injuries last night. The wins and losses. I don't care who loses a preseason game. I do care who you lose as far as personnel. I do care who's going to battle it out for the QB position. For much of my youth, that was the case in preseason. Didn't quite know what Billy Joe or Billy Bob was going to start. And then we had this guy named Drew Brees who had a decade or so of being the guy. He didn't play much in the preseason, didn't need to, maybe a couple of drives in game one. And it was always about who else do we need to follow now? You know, since Drew, who's now coming up on his first year of eligibility for the Hall of Fame. I would think he gets in. But needless to say, that quarterback position battle is something we'll talk about. Everything under the sun with Moon Griffon in about 15 minutes. But right now, it's time for This Day in History.
All right. Beginning in 1885, where $100,000 is raised in the U.S. for the pedestal of the Statue of Liberty. So today, yeah, that happened. Also today, 1973, the birth of hip-hop. DJ Kool Herc uses two turntables playing the same record simultaneously to create the merry-go-round technique at a party in the Bronx. Love that. Love that. Man, come a long way in hip-hop. They need to bring back the turntable. That's something we see less and less, or hear less and less in hip-hop. Let's see, 1979, British rock band Led Zeppelin performs for what becomes their final time in England. At they were in front of 200,000 fans. Wow, it's insane. 1984, during a radio voice test, U.S. President Ronald Reagan jokes that he signed legislation that would outlaw Russia forever. We begin bombing in 5 minutes, he says. Man, that's
sometimes
a bold test.
Yeah, sometimes those enemies come back around.
Yeah.
Right?
Ooh, shark alligator rule here. In 2016, a Greenland shark is declared the longest living vertebrae in the world at 392 years by an international team of scientists.
Anytime those stories are brought up, they got to be read, right? That's the rule that we're playing?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
For sure. Let's see. 2020, President Vladimir Putin, in a propaganda stunt, announces Russia has become the first country to grant regulatory approval to a COVID-19 vaccine called Sputnik 5, despite no scientific data being published or phase 3 trials having even begun. So, yeah, a little bit of propaganda.
Did you hear about President Biden over the weekend?
No.
He had to be brought to the hospital.
Why?
They said he couldn't stop Putin.
Dad jokes all morning this morning, brought to you by Cade Wise. Oh,
That's
man.
just what I heard. I'm just reporting I'm just reporting the news.
Yeah. That's breaking news.
Just report the news.
Oof.
Go ahead.
Let's see. You know what? 2022 U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland says he personally approves the FBI search of Trump's property on the same day a Washington Post source says the
Merrick
FBI
Garland.
search is for missing documents on nuclear weapons.
That's my limited fake Merrick Garland.
There you go.
Merrick Garland.
Merrick Garland. Oh, man. Moving on to birthdays here.
Please do.
Yeah, Hulk Hogan today. Just
Wow.
of course recently passed, but yeah, today
The Hulkster.
the
Rest in
Hulkster,
peace.
born 1953 today. Also, actor Chris Hemsworth, known for his roles as well. Thor.
Thor, yeah.
Actress Viola Davis as well today.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Apple co-founder Steve Wozniak today. Joe Rogan as well today.
Yeah.
Let's
Podcast
see.
by day, Joe Rogan. Joe
That's
Rogan by
it.
night.
Yes, indeed. Let's see who else we had. You know what? Were you a big Boy Meets World fan?
Well, I was a TGIF kid, so it was
there you
part of
go.
that lineup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Will Friedle today.
He was.
Why am I drawing a blank now?
Was he Mr. Feeney?
Corey Feeney.
Was
Eric.
He was Eric.
Eric.
Oh, the brother.
Eric.
Older brother.
Yeah. I don't know why I was drawing a blank there. Yeah, Eric.
Gotcha.
Eric Matthews.
Shout out to Panga.
Yeah. Man, those three actually host a show. Ryder Strong, Will Friedle, and
There's a podcast, right?
there's a podcast.
Yeah. Okay.
Pod Meets World, I believe it is.
There you go.
So, yeah. Moving on to deaths. Robin Williams today. Today in 2014, Robin Williams. And then
I introduced my kid to Jumanji a couple weeks back.
Oh, that's good.
It's a little
stuff.
heavy because of some of the animals come out and it's whatever. But
And how old your kid?
7.
Oh yeah. Well, that's a good age.
We were starting to try to get into maybe the first Jurassic Park, and it wasn't quite ready. So we went to Jumanji, and Jumanji was a success.
Yeah.
Shout out, rest in peace, the great Robin Williams.
So good, so good. Let's see another death as well. Andrew Carnegie, and Jackson Pollock. Let's see, and national days here. We have Victory Day USA, which oddly enough, Rhode Island is the only state to celebrate this.
Victory Day?
Yeah, Victory Day. It remains Victory Day is observed probably because the holiday was never meant to be anything other than commemorating the end of World War II. And it looks like it's only celebrated in Rhode Island, oddly enough.
Yeah.
Really strange. I was going to see if I had another one. Well, Hip Hop Day was another one. I guess.
It's World Hip Hop Day? Or?
Yeah, National Hip Hop Day.
Okay.
I guess because of the 1973, the birth of it, where, as I mentioned, DJ Kool Herc uses 2 turntables. So,
well,
yeah.
Is that wrapping up for us?
That's wrapping up.
Well, look, speaking of hip hop, there's no one I'd rather bring on to discuss the journey that hip hop has made from the 80s to now than Moon Griffon. We'll talk everything under the sun. With Moon coming up next here on Talk 107.3.
Hey, good morning, Moon. That's it, man. That's it. Yeah. He'll be back tomorrow. Yeah, he'll be back tomorrow. Friday, yeah, I believe he'll be on location as well. The show will still go on. Like, he'll still be hosting, but yeah, he'll be on location.
Yeah, he's in Charles, I think.
Oh, no. He'll still be in, we'll still have a show on Friday with him. All right, sounds good. Yeah, no problem. Thank you. Cool. Yeah, where he'll be Friday? Lake Charles, right?
I think so. He's got one Friday in Lake Charles. Is Lake Charles the one he's got 2 shows? Did he tell you about that?
No.
Doing like a midday show?
No, I just knew about the one show.
Let me see.
Does he need me for another show?
Let me check. Calendar.
Yeah, no, he didn't.
That could have been my fault. No, this one is just the one. Coming up, there's another one in like another week or 2 where he's He might have done it last year. We did a morning, and then he did like 11 to 1
Yeah.
afternoon.
Yep.
This one is at Little Bears Casino in Lake Charles, and it's just the morning show. 8:17 here on Monday morning. Cade Is In for the great Brian Haldane. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along this time of the day, at this time of the week. We bring on the voice of Louisiana. You hear him weekdays from 9 to 11 here on Talk 107.3 and statewide. He is Moon Griffon. Moon, thanks for joining us this morning.
Hey, Kay, good to hear from you, man. Didn't even know you handled the duties sometimes, man. I think that's awesome.
I picked it up today just to see if it's something I can handle, and it's been pretty fun so far. So we'll see if we can continue.
I'll be honest with you. I know you can handle it because I know all the stuff you handle behind the scenes. It's the easiest part of your. Hey, Kay, this is gonna be the easiest part of your day, brother.
You're probably right. I think you're probably right. You know, JP told me today was National Hip Hop Day, and I was wondering, because we got a topic here I want to discuss, if my rap name would be Medicaid. I wonder if that would work.
We might could do it.
Yeah,
I like that. I think the problem is with your hip hop name is really expensive.
Yeah, that is true. Well,
yeah, it's amazing. I keep up with the Medicaid. The governor Edwards came and expanded it. Look, I'm all for having a safety system that takes care of people that can't take care of themselves. We had one. It was the old system that needed to be tweaked, and that was the old charity hospital system. And really what we needed to do was to invest in these clinics where people come in and come out, because the emergency rooms are getting just stormed with people, and a lot of times they could be helped just walking in these clinics. And that was the answer, and it saved us a lot of money. But Obamacare is still slamming us. Obamacare was supposed to make our premiums go down. Obamacare really was designed to destroy the system that we have, and that's what it's doing. And you're starting to see it in the amount of money it's costing people. I mean, Kate, I'll just take my situation. I used to pay about $500 a month till Obamacare came along. And my premiums right now are $3,300 a month. That's a 600% increase. Very middle-class guy. And the Medicaid expansion, I'm all, like I said, for helping people, but we expanded it. Nobody thinks about the money because we think the federal government's going to keep sending it in, but they're $37 trillion in the hole. So inflation, spending more money, running up more debt, and you know, it's headed to a single-payer system. That's going to be the answer, which will be it's going to be more of a ration care, but everybody's going to be on the same system. So the Medicaid expansion really is one of the ways that I think Obama and the rest of them hurt the United States and hurt us. I also saw something else too, Kate, real quick to kind of go with it. Blue Cross Blue Shield, which is, by the way, the only place I can buy health care. Okay, the only place I can buy health care, I got one company, and it's Blue Cross Blue Shield. A lot of people, by the way, are just like me. They got one place to go. And I saw a Louisiana Blue Cross Blue Shield cutting jobs to manage rising health care costs because their profits are getting cut. And that's what happens when we started with Obamacare and Medicaid increases and inflation. This is what happens. So anyway, I'm not cutting Blue Cross Blue Shield. I like what they provide for us. They've been a good Louisiana company. We appreciate them. But they have to do what they need to do to survive. So all this stuff has to do with money.
Speaking of losing some money, and Louisiana losing in the upwards of, $156 million in some solar projects?
Yeah, what happened was Donald Trump would cut every penny out of the Green New Deal. The solar projects were part of that. I don't know. I know where you live. You probably can mention maybe a couple places that have that, but I went up to North Louisiana the other day, and these solar farms are everywhere. I mean, these beautiful farmlands are gone.
Mm-hmm.
They're putting solar energy and solar farms all over it. And what the president is, he thinks it's all a hoax, and I agree with him. So what he did, he cut billions out of the program, and I saw an article the other day. They were crying because Louisiana is going to lose $156 billion grants that's already been awarded. It's going to be taken away. It was $7 billion from the Environmental Protection Agency. They canceled $7 billion of these projects, which once again wasting money, wasting time, wasting effort. But some of these farmers, you know, if me and you own farmland and we rent it out to farmers, we're not making much money. And the federal government comes to you and me, Cade, and say, hey guys, I'm gonna pay y'all millions of dollars over the next 20, 30 years. Let me take over your property. You literally let them take over the property for 30 years. You cannot tell them anything at that point, and you just rake in your money every month or every year. And it's a poor way to run business. The federal government should have never been in it. We're going to lose some money on it. I personally am tickled to death that we're not going to get it, but the big part is $7 billion is going to go back to the federal government instead of it being wasted. So that's kind of what's going on. I don't mind losing the money. Somebody out there is all upset about it, but I'm not one of them because it's your money and my money.
Is that similar to the projects that were proposed under Biden for the windmills in the Gulf, that now that's been canceled?
Yeah.
You know, in a way?
Very much so. Yes, sir. You hit it right on the head, Cade. The Biden administration are ones kicked this off when President Trump, and I still think he got cheated, but I'm going to stick to that. When he lost, they went on the Green New Deal hunt immediately. They started passing infrastructure packages that Senator Cassidy voted for. And it was all this Green New Deal, and everybody was going to get free money. But you know, along the way, inflation skyrocketed, and our debt went to $37 trillion. So the president was trying to cut some of that stuff out. He says he don't ever want a windmill built, and I'm 100% for. Here's the thing, though, Kay. I think you'd agree with me on this. If this was good for the private sector would go spend all the money to get it done. But they wouldn't be doing any of this with the exception of you and me with our tax dollars paying them. And that's why it's just a hoax. It's all gas, fuel, natural gas, coal. Those are the things that God's given us right out of the earth and the ocean, and we don't need anything else. That is it, and that's what forms electricity. Without those, you don't have the other.
He's Moon Griffon. You can hear him weekday mornings from 9 to 11 here on Talk 107.3, as well as Around the State. And speaking of Around the State, something that's brought up a lot of discussion is the district that belongs to Cleo Fields, District 6 here in Louisiana. I know the Supreme Court mentioned they're going to want to weigh in on this. You know, it's interesting because I think of parallels right now, what's going on in Texas, and J.B. Pritzker up there in Illinois is saying, well, you know, the reason that this is not good is because, well, we do it every 10 years. You can't do it in the middle like that or before an election, when Louisiana had something happen before an election not that long ago. So I don't understand what the rules are as far as when you can do this or when you can't. It's just very interesting what's going on between these two states.
Well, what happens is that the Supreme Court, we got this Voting Rights Act and Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, which really hampered the South on redistricting. In other words, you have to draw minority districts, you have to do this and you have to do that. The rest of the country is not under that. So that's the problem in the South. We got districts that would probably change. But what Trump is saying, and the Supreme Court we're hoping to say, is that you can't do that anymore. So they're being prepared for a ruling that's going to come out hopefully this year that's going to say they can go back to where they're not forced to draw certain districts. And if we get that ruling in, you're going to see a lot of southern states go back and draw districts over. You'll be allowed to do it. But, you know, in the case of Louisiana, the governor and the legislature, all Republicans, gave Cleo Fields a district. They took one away from Gary Graves and gave it to Cleo Fields. The problem we got is that should have never been done. The second thing is we never protected the district that was drawn. It was drawn where Garrett was going to get the run. We never went to court on that district. Governor and Liz Murrow decided not to go to fight that. They hurry up and rushed a special session to draw a district for Cleo Fields. way, John, let me tell you something. Cade, I'm sorry, not John. Cade, once the governor, any governor, but our governor signs a redistricting map, a new redistricting map, it automatically replaces the map that was there. That means that map is like it was never written. The new map matters. So Liz and Jeff and them, and I love Liz and Jeff to death, but they rushed the legislature through the process to draw another map. When they should have waited till March 4th, when March 4th came around, we would have had a chance to fight for the old map, which is the map we should have fought for because it was definitely done right. But they decided to hurry up and draw this map. Then we didn't even show up for the March 4th hearing. So to fight the map for the map we should have fought for. So now we got a deal, and we did that. Republicans did that. And by the way, the map that we have now with Cleo and a 3-judge federal panel last year, they ruled that Cleo Field's map was unconstitutional. And so then they went to the Supreme Court and we fought for the Cleo map. So this is our own makings on this map. We screwed this up, and Republicans screwed it up, to be blunt with you.
Moon, what's coming up on the show today?
Well, I got all that coming up. Some with the Blue Cross, the things that we talked about. Why Louisiana is not joining Texas and California in gerrymandering. So we got that. Also the Medicaid cuts, and got some national stories as well to come.
Moon Griffon.
I think we got Cade Brumley from the Superintendent of Education going to join us as well today.
Well, awesome. Yeah, he's got that meeting this morning with Secretary McMahon, so that's awesome to get that.
I think we're supposed to have Secretary McMahon's going to join us.
Oh,
so
great.
we have both of them on today at the same time.
Fantastic. It's
I
pretty
think
awesome.
they come on at 9:06.
Pretty awesome that she's making this the first stop. So, Moon, we always appreciate you coming on this program. The local conversation doesn't end at 9. It carries over, and we look forward to hearing from you each and every day. And again, next week here with Brian. So thanks so much.
All right, man. Thank you, sir.
Moon Griffon. Weekdays 9 to 11 right here on Talk 107.3, but also the Moon Griffon podcast. JP helps curate every day along with Moon's producer, and we get that up on our website at talk1073.com, but wherever you listen to podcasts, or you're an Apple guy, or you Google Play, you can find that podcast there. You can also get it on the Talk 1073 mobile app. There's links to the podcast there. The Talk 1073 mobile app, our Facebook feed, and the Talk 1073 Baton Rouge YouTube channel, all presented courtesy of Lake Urgent Care. New Orleans Saints fall in preseason game number 1 to the Los Angeles Chargers. And that's not the story that I'm really worried about. Injuries, QB battle, who stood out. We'll try to open it up with some positives. There's a lot of negatives. Saints fans grumpy. I'm one of them. Whatever. I don't care if they lost. More about the execution. But we'll talk about it with Ross Jackson, LouisianaSports.net. And then we'll wind things down here on a Monday and get you set and turn it over to Moon Griffon. And don't forget that you can find whatever you missed from today's show on demand at talk1073.com. We will feature our conversation with Louisiana Shrimp Association President Acy Cooper Jr. as the fall inshore shrimp season began today. John's with me. Bald shrimp, about as good as it gets. A fried shrimp po' boy, about as good as it gets. So let's get those guys out there. Let's get them catching. We can all enjoy some delicious seafood here in Louisiana. All right. Headlines from Louisiana, from the Louisiana Radio Network coming up. A check on traffic, a check on weather from WBRZ's weather team. But first, a check on the national headlines from ABC News right here on Talk 107.3.
Hi, good morning, Mr. Ross. This is JP with, actually, Cade Wazan. Let's say mornings with Brian Haldane. Yes, sir. Hey, looking to have you up here in just a few minutes. All right. Thank you, sir. Oh, we'll come back in about another minute or so. Yeah, about 2 more minutes, including like weather. So another minute and a half.
.37 here on Monday morning. It's Mornings with Brian Haldane. Rolling right along. In for the great Brian Haldane, I am Cade Wazan. Brian will be back tomorrow. Over the weekend, more specifically yesterday afternoon, I believe it was the only game going on at that time. The final preseason game of preseason week number 1. The Saints fell to the Chargers 27-13. Covering it for LouisianaSports.net, host of a Locked On Saints podcast, as well as many other responsibilities. Ross Jackson joins us now. Ross, thanks so much for a couple minutes this morning.
Hey, Cade, no problem at all, man. Glad to be here with you. Appreciate you having me on.
So there's a lot of negative, or I guess the fan in me will want to get to with you here in just a second. But let's try to start. I'm not trying to paint lipstick on a pig, but give me a positive thing from what you saw yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the highs were pretty high, and I think for me that's a good thing because the Saints are still trying to figure out what's going on with this quarterback battle, and so to start there, I think the thing that we're learning is that neither one of these quarterbacks is going to necessarily come out here and lose the quarterback battle. One of them is going to win the quarterback battle. And I think that's the best situation for New Orleans. You don't want to hand this job over by default because one guy can't handle it, right? You want to hand this job over to the guy that has earned it. And I think that you're going to see that here between Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shuck. And so I would say that there were some low lows, but certainly the high highs are something that you can look at in this quarterback battle and feel a little bit more comfortable about, just from the perspective of getting started, figuring out who the starter is, and kind of balancing out this competition a bit. One of these guys is ready to win this battle within the next, I would probably say, week, rather than it just being handed over to the guy that, wasn't as bad or something like that.
From the quarterback's perspective, nothing really over the top from Rattler. Like I've been saying, and people say this all the time. I mean, wins and losses in preseason doesn't matter. But I look at situations, and you recover a fumble in a spot where you should punch it in for 6. I don't mind not kicking a field goal, whatever, going for it on 4th down in a preseason. Can you get 6?
Right.
That's a win for me. It's a little like mini wins you can pick up in a preseason. And whether it's the play call, the execution, not being able to get that done, he fumbles later. And then the highs and lows from Shuck, where, you see a beautiful pass. That's what I guess the Saints fans have been the highlight that's running in their head when they go to sleep at night thinking about the season. And then the rookie mistake in a pick 6. So this is back and forth and what we should expect, because you've been following this team. You see that Rattler is at least seeming to have the lead. But boy, Shuck is on his tail.
Yeah, I would say over the course of the last 8 days, Tyler Shuck has done a really good job building some momentum and maybe closing the gap a little bit. I think I would still have Spencer Rattler in the lead because I think he plays a little bit closer to center. And what I mean by closer to center is that his play is a little bit more consistent and there are less kind of wild swings, either in the overly positive or overly negative. Whereas Tyler Shuck will have some of the best throws that you've seen throughout camp, but also have some of the, most costly decisions that you've seen throughout camp. And then, because we have to take camp into consideration in addition to the preseason game when it comes to that quarterback competition. And so I think that's kind of the way that I said it right now, to where I think I said on my show yesterday, if there were 10 points separating Rattler and Shuck, with Rattler in the lead, maybe it's been whittled down to 5 points of a lead so far. But that's good momentum for a guy like Tyler Shuck, who really, really started to build it during that 126-play scrimmage just about 9 days ago now. And so over the course of this last week and a half is really where he has seen his momentum begin to build and that gap begin to narrow.
Outside of the battle for quarterback, it's a pretty lengthy list of who will be the primary backup to Alvin Kamara. He had the day off yesterday. And we saw, from a stat standpoint, not really a great day, but what stood out amongst that field and who impressed you?
Yeah, I thought Kendre Miller looked the best as a rusher. You would have liked for him to be able to punch in, like you mentioned, that, either that fourth down call or a different call when they were down deep in the red zone there after the muff punt. So you got to get something going there for sure. But this was a team whose running backs in this game averaged 1.93 yards per carry. They rushed 15 times in terms of all the combined running backs that saw the football, and only picked up 29 rushing yards. So it was hard to really find a standout because of the actual run game when it came to the running backs. So Kendre would probably be the one that would highlight from that perspective. But then you look at guys like Velus Jones Jr., who looked really good as a receiver and who looked really good as a returner. Averaged 36.5 yards on each of his returns, including a long of 46. He had a really nice 13-yard catch and run where he, showed what he could do with the ball in his hands, creating some yards after catch opportunities, things like that. That's something that the Saints don't really have on their roster. And so finding those guys that can do that is certainly helpful. And I think that Clyde Edwards-Helaire stood out big time because of his pass protection. He was the reason why that big 54-yard touchdown between Tyler Shuck and Mason Tipton happened, is because he picked up the pressure in the backfield that kept Tyler Shuck clean. And so it's interesting to say, but there was only one running back that stood out because of the actual responsibilities of running the football. The others stood out in other areas.
On the defensive side, the Saints seemed to get some good pressure up front. early on in that ball game. Some notable standouts, a couple of sacks. What stood out for you defensively, and more specifically, how have you seen the guys on the ends who are also vying for that depth spot, behind the key starters?
Yeah, I mean, two of the guys at edge that have stood out all throughout training camp, or really one guy that stood out all throughout training camp is Chris Rumpf. And then the other guy that has really kind of picked up his pace since that first scrimmage, much like Tyler Shuck, has been Fadil Diggs, 7th-round pick. And both of those guys, to me, were standouts in this preseason matchup. Jasheem Davis, the undrafted free agent out of Wake Forest, we didn't see in action on Sunday, but he's the other one that's been a big-time standout throughout practices. But those two guys, Chris Rumpf the second, as well as Fadil Diggs, I think were the two standout edge rushers for me. Chris Rumpf can just be very disruptive. He's highly energetic. He's a big-time energy guy on the field that helps out the rest of the defense. I think there's value in that. He can go out there and make plays as well. Then Fadil Diggs ends up with a sack chasing one of the Chargers quarterbacks out of bounds for a loss of 1 yard, and then also had a couple of other plays where he was in the backfield. So I think both those guys are big-time standouts. And then on the interior of the defensive line, unlike the offensive line, you saw some pretty good depth impact on the defensive side. I thought Jonah Williams had a strong day in the limited reps that he saw. Christian Boyd, who was, a late round draft pick last year, was on the active roster, but inactive on game day quite a bit last season. He's really picked up his pass rushing ability. He's the guy that had the sack that was initially ruled a safety, and then it was overturned to just be a sack. He had a couple of other flashy plays after that. So I think he's had a pretty strong camp so far.
Ross Jackson from LouisianaSports.net, Locked On Saints podcast, is our guest. So that brings me to the topic I know everyone certainly is very interested in. And when you follow a preseason game, it's what did you do situationally? How healthy are you? We saw Will Clapp off the field, hobble off the field. I didn't see Trevor Penning, but it was, and certainly I followed your reports throughout the night, carted off during the game. Man, injuries on that offensive line, when you're working in these new guys under center, there's never a good time for it. Any updates on either or any others who were hurt last night?
Yeah, no big updates yet. Kellen Moore said that they were going to be, kind of doing further evaluations there. We'll figure out kind of where things go. The Saints also lost Bub Means to an injury. It looked like maybe it had something to do with his right foot. I imagine that because he was also carted off, but had his right shoe off and a towel over his head as he went off. And then Mason Pline was helped off the field and then eventually helped back to the locker room as well, the newly signed tight end. So he had 4 injuries last night for a Saints team that's stayed relatively healthy here over the course of the offseason. So the big one that you're hoping for being okay here is Trevor Penning, right? Trevor Penning was carted off with both shoes off, but didn't look super distressed, walked to the cart just fine. And so maybe they carted him off because they didn't want him to walk off the field barefoot. Sometimes you do that in these preseason games in particular as a precautionary measure. But we'll see. We'll learn more as we get, greater updates or further updates here over the course of the next day or two. But it was disappointing to see for a team that has done such a good job staying healthy all offseason to go into its first action and to see 4 guys go down with injuries. That's just one of those kind of bad omens, I guess you can say, in terms of health, which is something that's really been a big-time problem for this team over the course of the last few years. And we knew that, they weren't going to be able to curve it all in one off season, but to see 4 guys go down in the first preseason game is a little unsettling for sure.
And visually, I don't necessarily know, and sure we'll find out, but you see the cart come out or you hear the report of a cart took the player back to the locker room. So my mind instantly goes to the worst case scenario when I hear something like that, or not the worst, but the idea that there's significant time that's going to be missed. And so hopefully not, but yeah, you see that and that's what you think.
100%. And it's an interesting thing. I mean, they do this sometimes in the preseason as a precautionary measure. We've seen the Saints be, overly cautious on certain situations here over the course of the offseason already. So you kind of hope that all those things are connected as a Saints fan. But until we get more information, unfortunately, we won't know. But yeah, it's never good to see the cart come out, but at the same time, not always bad. So we'll have to kind of wait and see where things go. I would say that if there's any player that, is most likely to, either miss time or anything like that, it comes down to maybe Bub Means and Will Clapp. those are two guys that, didn't look great as they were carted off. I'm interested in the Trevor Penning one, but you certainly don't want to see him get hurt again because he was a guy that, stayed healthy for 17 games last year, playing at right tackle, finally gets his opportunity to play on the interior, everything. He's got an injury history, and so you'd like to see him avoid repeating that. So, ideally for the Saints, that was just a precautionary situation. And one other one to actually watch, too, is going to be Tyler Shuck. He had his knee taped up in ice at the end of the game or after the game. He said it was just a bruise to his knee and that he'll be fine. So the Saints are off today. They'll be back at practice tomorrow. On Tuesday, we'll see if he's out there ready to go.
And they return home to play preseason game number 2 in the Dome on Sunday against Jacksonville. But all week, follow the reports from Ross Jackson at LouisianaSports.net. Ross, we always appreciate your time. And, man, look forward to seeing you down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate you having me on. You take care, stay safe, and I'll talk to you here soon.
All right, that is Ross Jackson, LouisianaSports.net, Locked On Saints podcast. Interesting. Shuck, nursing something, but hopefully we'll be bouncing back at practice. A check on traffic coming up, but right now a check on the markets, and then we'll be back to wrap things up here on a Monday. Mornings with Brian Haldane, Cade Wazan filling in, Talk 107.3. Throw in more sports analogies and groans when you stand up, and you will have this job down.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Is that a Brian thing?
Oh yeah.
About 5 minutes, I guess. $8:56 here on a Monday morning. Talk 107.3. Mornings with Brian Haldane. I am Cade Wozniak, filling in for the great Brian Haldane, who will be back tomorrow. JP, you've done an excellent job. I appreciate your help.
No, you're doing great as well. I'm surprised this is your first time hosting.
Yeah, I
Brian.
I don't know. I just never threw my hat in the ring, but my man Brian needs some time. He works a lot. I hope he's able to take some time off today to rest and relax and spend some time with his awesome family. And hope he has, if he has any more time coming up, I'll be more than happy to step in. Looking back at what we learned today, potential hip hop name, Medicaid.
I like that.
Yeah, that could be an option, right?
That's what I'm talking about.
But you'd have to. I wouldn't spell it the same, because you have to. You can use a common word, but spell it just slightly different. I think that's probably the key.
Would it be spelled like your name, right? With
Yeah.
C-A-D-E?
Yeah,
for sure.
The story of the day that led our top stories was the passing of Sergeant Caleb Eisworth of the Baton Rouge Police Department. Passed away at the Baton Rouge Hospital Sunday morning, succumbing to his injuries that he had suffered back in June, where a man had allegedly drove a truck into his motorcycle. And I know the DA is seeking to upgrade those charges. It was initially he was initially charged with attempted first-degree murder. DA Hiller Moore is going to look to upgrade that to first degree and seek the death penalty. Certainly will consult with the officer's family. We have a minute. I'll just reread the statement from Baton Rouge Police Department Chief T.J. Morse. It is with profound sadness that I must share that our beloved Motors officer, Sergeant Caleb Eisworth, died moments ago, surrounded by loved ones. Caleb was an amazing officer and a good man. He spent 7 weeks fighting hard to overcome his injuries, but ultimately lost his battle today. I ask that our community continue to lift the Eisworth family and the men and women of our Baton Rouge Police Department up in prayer. So that is something that's been heavy this morning. I know Mayor President Sid Edwards asked all flags to be flown at half staff in honor of Eisworth today. So something to note. Family members out there, an extra hug, an extra smooch, something. Because, man, it's just tough to hear these stories. It's even tougher when they impact your local community. But it happens far too often, and it's it's just tough. So lots of prayers for the Eisworth family. All right, that'll do it. Moon Griffon is coming up next. Brian Haldane will be back tomorrow. For JP, I'm Cade. This has been Mornings with Brian Haldane on Talk 107.3.
All right. That was good.
All right, the Facebook.
Yeah, Facebook crew.
Thank you.